Hey y'all, welcome to Kamira's Kitchen. Today I'm showing you how to make a full Easter dinner with your mains as well as your sides. I'm going to talk you through all of these recipes, and in the description box I'm going to put a link to some of the best desserts I think that would go with this meal, and you can see those videos. You will also see the ingredients and some tips on how to make your Easter dinner easier. I'm going to suggest the order in which you should make some of these foods and also some things you can do the night before. So let's rock with me as we first start out by making this delicious potato salad that y'all know everybody ready to eat, okay? Now here are my ingredients. I have some Tony's Creole seasoning. I'm using some chicken bouillon, a little bit of honey. Now, this is not normal, but my Aunt Polly, who could throw down on some potato salad, she used some honey, so I'm going to use that. I have sweet relish, of course, potatoes, yellow mustard. I like Duke's mayonnaise for potato salad. A little bit of Old Bay, but we ain't going to add too much because we don't want to be like seafood, okay? My paprika, garlic powder, and onion powder, white pepper, and of course, we're going to use some eggs. Now, the best potatoes to use for a potato salad are the waxy kind. These are like your yellow or your golden potatoes. You'll also see some of them that have like honey potatoes. They are creamier and they also hold a good shape while boiling. So I think these are better than the russet. Now I'm going to chop these into the desired size pieces that I want. You don't want them too big, okay? You don't want them too small or else they're going to disintegrate. And then I'm going to give them another wash. I like to get the starch off of them. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is set my water to boil. I'm going to add a tablespoon of salt, and I'm going to add my eggs in before I put in my potatoes. I like to make sure my eggs is all the way cooked, okay? I do not like no runny eggs. So one of them was actually cracked. Okay, he was trying to act up. So I had to take him out and I had to put in a new one. All right. So I start boiling my eggs about 3 minutes before I put in my potatoes. And the salt is going to help them peel easier. After 3 minutes, I'm going to add in a tablespoon of chicken bouillon as well as my potatoes. The chicken bouillon is going to flavor the potatoes as well as the salt, and that's the main reason why some of y'all potato salads don't taste good, okay? Because y'all don't season the potatoes, okay? Y'all know potatoes is bland. Now after about 5 to 7 minutes, you're gonna see you can stick your fork in your potatoes and they're going to be ready. You need to immediately drain this and then rinse this with cool water. The cool water is going to stop the cooking process, and it's going to keep your potatoes from getting mushy. My main tip is to make this in advance and actually put it in the fridge for about an hour to cool down. I think that's the best thing to do, because if not, the seasonings you won't have a good gauge for how much seasoning you could use because everything's going to be warm. If you let the potatoes cool down and then you also make this sauce here cold, then you know exactly how it's going to taste. I'm going to put in total about a cup of mayonnaise, about a tablespoon of yellow mustard, about 2 teaspoons of honey, and now I'm just going to shake in the Creole seasoning. I probably use about a teaspoon total, a little bit of garlic, a little bit of onion powder. You know how it is. Now, some people do like to put raw onion and celery in their potato salad, but you look, I ain't really trying to crunch on all that in mine. So you do you, honey. If you like it, you go for it. But I like a simple potato salad. Now, the Old Bay, just put a pinch. You don't want to get crazy with it. You don't want it tasting like seafood, but a little bit does taste nice. In total, I'm going to use about 8 ounces of this sweet relish. And I actually like to drain my sweet relish a little bit. Like, I just don't take the stuff from the bottom because I don't want my potato salad to be too soupy. Then I'm going to go ahead and give this a good mix and a taste. Now, you will see that these eggs are going to peel so easy. Like, baby, do you see this? Perfection, okay? I bet you ain't even know you could do it like that. All right, it's that salt in the water, okay? That's going to let it peel easy. And I shocked it with that cold water rinse. Helps it come off clean as ever. Now, I like small eggs in my potato salad, so I am going to grate my eggs. Now, you could chop them if you like. I just don't like big chunks of too much egg. Now, at the end, I'll just throw in whatever's left. That's not going to bother me, but this is just my preference. You can cut, you can grate, do what you want to do. But I do like to save one egg at the end that I'll just slice for decorations. You know what I mean? We always got to let them know that we doing something up in the kitchen, that we know how to cook, okay? You know what I'm saying? Put these little extra touches on here just makes everything special. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is mix in my grated up eggs into my mayonnaise mixture. I like to do this so that I don't have to over mix when I add my cooled down potatoes. And these have chilled for 1 hour in the fridge. I'm going to toss these gently because I don't want to break up the potatoes too much, but I am going to knock them up, on the sides, beat them up just a little bit because, you ain't making mashed potatoes, but you do want a little bit of thickness on that potato salad. Then I'm going to just adjust everything to taste, and I'm just going to set this in the fridge to cool. I'll put on those sliced eggs at the top, add on a little paprika, a little parsley. Maybe you got your potato salad. I love me a pineapple glazed ham, and you guys are going to absolutely love this recipe. This with that potato salad. You could almost just make a meal out of this. Let's go ahead and get started. For starters, I have a 9-pound smoked spiralized ham. I think getting it spiralized is the easiest thing to do for the home cook. I ain't trying to mess with all that cutting. All right, so to get started, I have a ring of pineapples. I also have these little marsuccio, y'all know those little cherries y'all be putting on the ice cream, okay? I have some cloves, and I am going to be stuffing the slices of this ham with these pineapple rings. This is going to make the ham super juicy and super tasty. Now, to put them in between the slices, you're just going to take those rings and break them in half. I'm also going to take those cherries and I'm going to push some of them down deep, okay, down deep up in there. And then other ones I am going to sort of put on the edge. Any of the pineapples and the cherries that you put more on the edge of the slices, they're going to get caramelized and they're going to bring out a really great flavor. So do a little bit of both, okay? Then I am going to use cloves and I'm just going to stick them all around the slices of the ham. Now, I feel like cloves are a must whenever you're making a ham. And I know some of y'all, the only time y'all use cloves is when you're making ham, okay? But I think it's definitely something you need to have that nice holiday flavor. I'm also going to be using toothpicks just to secure some of the slices. I don't want it to become too droopy, so I'm just going to use the toothpicks to help me keep in the pineapples and the cherries. Now put the cloves however you want them, but on the back, sometimes it's really not sliced. So I'm going to take my chef knife and I'm going to score it. I'm going to go down a couple of times on the diagonal in one direction, and then I will flip my knife and I will go the other direction just to make this nice little pattern. This is going to be so that I can stick my cloves in there and get that flavor and aroma in the back. Y'all know we eat all the sides of the meat. We eat in the front, we eat in the back. All right, so you want to go in and you want to flavor this side as well. Now, you guys tell me, how do you guys prepare your holiday ham? Are you guys using cloves? Are you using allspice? What are you eating this ham with? I feel like ham and potatoes are like a natural pairing, as well as with some yeast rolls. Oh my goodness. That is like the epitome of holiday food, okay? Now I am going to go in and put my cherries and my pineapples together in a cute decorative pattern. Like, isn't that the point of having a ham? Like, it is so cute. So I'm going to take my pineapple rings and I'm going to take my cherries and I'm just going to stick them all around the place. Now, with my ham all prepared, I am going to cover it up with foil and I'm going to push this into a 325-degree oven for an hour and a half. This is going to make sure that the ham is evenly heated. To make sure that the ham does not dry out, I have saved the juice from the pineapple. I use 2 cans of the pineapple rings, so that's why you see 2 cups of juice. I'm putting 1 cup of juice into the bottom of this baking dish. I'm going to cover it, and then I'm going to bake it for an hour and a half. If you have a larger ham, you could even do up to 2 hours. Remember, the ham's already cooked. We're just heating it up, okay? So now we're going to go in and make a glaze. I have 4 tablespoons of salted butter, and to that I'm going to put a half of a cup of honey because this is a honey glazed ham, okay? I'm then going to add a cup and a half of brown sugar, as well as about 1/4 of a cup of the pineapple juice and 1/4 of a cup of the juice from the cherries. I'm putting cinnamon and a little bit of ginger in mine, and I also like to put 2 tablespoons of Dijon mustard. It will not make a strong mustard taste, but it will complement the sweetness of the fruits. I'm using about 1/8 of a teaspoon of nutmeg and just a little pinch of salt to balance out that sweetness, and I'm going to cook this until everything is melted. Now my ham is now thoroughly heated, and I'm going to first baste it with a turkey baster. You want to make sure the ham doesn't dry out, so just go in there and put this pineapple juice has been at the bottom all between the slices to make sure it doesn't dry out. I'm then going to begin to glaze the ham. Now this glaze is super delicious. And do y'all just see how this river, this river of glaze is just coming down this ham? Oh my goodness. And you also want to make sure that you get the pineapple rings because you want those to caramelize. To step up the flavor, I even take my turkey baster and I actually inject the glaze in between all of the slices. This is going to make sure you get that flavor all up in the ham. Now this part is totally optional, but I like to take out some of the juice that is at the bottom, and I like to actually reduce it just for about 10 minutes on the stove so that when I go into glaze, the glaze is just a little bit thicker, but this is optional. You don't have to do this, okay? Now my ham has been baking at 400 degrees for 10 minutes uncovered. I'm then going to go in with the basting liquid that I have, and I'm going to put it all over the ham slices as well as in between the slices. Basting is super important at this stage because you don't want it to dry out, but you want it to caramelize. I let mine cook for about 25 minutes at 400, and I just baste it in total about every 5 minutes, and then you will have this beautiful ham. Next thing we're going to work on is this easy southern style corn pudding, that good old down home corn pudding recipe that everybody loves. Now we're going to go over some of these ingredients. So I have here some nutmeg. I'm going to grate it fresh. I have some evaporated milk. Of course, we have to use corn. So I have a can of drained whole kernel corn, 2 cans of cream corn, and I do have one 12-ounce bag of frozen corn. But you don't have to have this. You really could just use 2 cans of whole corn. But I use what I got, okay? Then I have 5 eggs, and I have 4 tablespoons of cornstarch to thicken everything up, a 1/2 cup of sugar, a stick of butter, and I also have some vanilla extract, okay? To get everything started, we're going to start off by cracking all of our eggs into our bowl. Of course, you know what? Make sure you ain't got no shell up in there. Okay, then you ain't never going to live that down if they get something crunchy up in, the corn pudding. And I'm going to first start by whisking together all the eggs to beat them. And then I'm going to put in my evaporated milk. Now, guys, please let me know in the comments if you like me making these full holiday meals. Would you like me to do Thanksgiving, a Christmas meal, all those little holidays in between? Let me know. I'm going to also put in a teaspoon of this vanilla extract, and I'm going to whisk that together with my sugar. Now, I only like to use 1/2 cup of sugar. I know some people like their corn pudding super sweet, and this is not, though this is sweet, it's not dessert sweet in my opinion. I don't think it's like sickeningly sweet, okay? You could even use 1/4 cup of sugar, but to me, 1/2 cup is perfection. Now, as you see, I've grated in my nutmeg, I've put in my butter, all my cornstarch, and it's okay if the cornstarch has some of the lumps. Not a big deal. It's going to work itself out in the corn pudding. I'm then going to go in with both cans of my cream corn and also my drained whole corn. Now, my frozen corn actually still got a little ice on it, all right? It actually doesn't have to be totally defrosted. Doesn't really matter. And of course, like I said, you can just use 2 cans of corn. But I had this and I was going to use it. I ain't going to waste no food up in here. Okay? And then I'm going to mix everything together. And that's how easy it is to put together a easy corn pudding. Now, I almost forgot. Okay, I almost forgot to put in a 1/2 teaspoon of salt. Can't have the sugar without the salt. Okay, so go and throw that up in there. But if you use salted butter, you don't need to do this. Okay? Essential for a corn pudding is to use a big casserole dish. You need it. Corn pudding is a flat casserole. So this is a 9 by 13. That's the appropriate size for this amount. But don't worry, because most likely you're not even going to have to double this because this makes such a large serving. I'm then going to put this in the oven at 400 degrees for somewhere between 40 to 45 minutes. You're going to see that it's going to be golden on top. It may even take an hour if you have a low heating oven, but for me, 40 to 45 minutes was perfection, okay? Now, some people like to eat their corn pudding cold, other people's hot or room temperature. Let me know what temperature you like to eat yours. I tend to prefer mine a little on the warm side, but since this can be eaten cold, I think this is actually a really good dish to make the day before because it's really easy to heat up again. But I will say that I think you should let it rest for at least 10 minutes if you're going to make it the day of Easter before serving, because I do think it needs to come together a little bit. And then you have yourself a delicious corn pudding. Baby, go on, give me a like just for this, because you know this one real good, okay? Next, we're going to make some collard greens with some smoked turkey leg. This is perfect because it frees up the stove and you don't need the oven. All you need is an Instant Pot. I'm going to start out by putting my Instant Pot on saute mode and adding about a tablespoon of olive oil. Then I'm going in with 1 diced onion. It was a small onion. Use as much as you like. And I'm just quickly going to saute it for about 2 minutes. I'm not really trying to put color on it. I'm just trying to get that raw onion taste out. Then I'm going to go in with 2 teaspoons of minced garlic. This is actually fresh minced garlic, so if you're doing it yourself, go in with about 3 cloves. I'm also going to put a teaspoon of chicken better than bouillon. If you have chicken broth, you don't need to use this. And I'm going to put in about a cup of water. You really do not need very much water to get your Instant Pot to come to pressure. Now look at this big fat turkey leg, y'all. This turkey leg could barely fit into my Instant Pot, but I did make it work, and I'm using some pre-shredded and cleaned collard greens. Guys, I don't like to cut collard greens. I'm keeping it simple, and this is 2 pounds. Now, because this turkey leg is so big, I'm going to have to work all my greens around this big fat turkey leg. This turkey was out here doing some stuff in the wild, okay? Or maybe in a farm, but it was out here doing some stuff. It was getting fat. This turkey leg was really about 3 pounds. Now, I put on a little bit of Tony seasoning, close my Instant Pot, put it on sealing, and I'm going to pressure cook this for 35 minutes. After 35 minutes are up, I'm going to allow it to natural release for about 10 minutes, and then I'm going to release it the rest of the way. After that time, guys, look at these greens. This turkey leg is tender. These greens are not mushy at all. They are perfectly cooked, and our smoked turkey is very, very delicious. I'm going to take it out, and I'm going to shred the meat. If you want your turkey leg to be a little bit more falling off the bone, then you're going to need to pressure cook your turkey leg for longer. I'm going to season my greens now with salt, pepper, a little bit of chicken Maggi, a little bit of extra Tony's, and garlic powder. You really need to do it to taste depending on how many greens you have. As you can see, these have cooked down a lot. I'm going to add back in my shredded turkey and give everything a really good mix. And of course, I will taste it again just to see if everything's good. But this smoked turkey with collard greens was really delicious. This is the best recipe and easiest recipe for these greens, guys. Next, we're going to do these lamb chops. You know, there's always someone in the family who doesn't eat pork, so they're not going to eat the ham. And lamb chops come together really quickly, so I feel like this is one of the last things that you should make when you do your meal. First, I've already washed my lamb, and I have already taken off a little silver lining on the back of the lamb chop, and I'm just going to dry it really well. Now, you don't have to take this off, and I didn't even get all of it, but I do think it makes the meat a little bit more tender, but that's my own opinion. Now, I'm going to take a sharp knife, and I'm going to try to cut through the middle of each piece on the rack of lamb. I don't like trying to cut next to the bone because then you have, you know, a fat side on the meat of the lamb, then you have a skinny side, and I want it all even all around. There's a little bone there, but you can just go right through it with any regular old chef knife, and then you will have your lamb chops cut up into pieces for you. Once I have finished this, I'm going to go in and I'm going to dry my lamb chops very well. You want to get a nice sear on them, so you have to get off all that excess water. I actually leave the fat on mine, and you can take the fat off if you prefer, but I like keeping mine on so it can baste the meat. I put some olive oil on there, and I'm going in with some of this Saison tropical seasoning, which is bomb. If you have not tried this, ooh, child, you got to try it. It is so good. And I'm just going to do all these seasonings to taste, okay? Real chefs know, all right? You know, just feel it out. I'm then going to go in with some of this buttery steakhouse seasoning. Now, remember, both of these seasonings have salt, so you do not need any additional salt. Lamb chops are very similar to steak in that they don't need too much seasoning going on. I added on some of my onion and herb seasoning and a little bit of roasted garlic and red pepper seasoning. Those are both salt free. If you don't have the roasted garlic seasoning, just go with regular garlic powder and that will be good. Mix it and really massage those seasonings in so that they will stick to this lamb. And if you have any bare spots, you can just add a little bit extra seasoning if needed. I'm going to let this marinate to the side for just about 10 minutes, and then I'm going to be ready to go. Now, in a cast iron skillet, it is hot, all right? I have it on a medium-high heat. I already heated up some olive oil for about 30 seconds before putting in this lamb. I'm going to carefully add in all of the lamb chops. Look, don't crowd it, all right? This is not a, this is not a party, okay? They can't be all up on each other. Now, for a little bit of flavor, I'm going to put in some butter. I love a buttery flavor on my lamb chops, so I'm using that, and 3 whole cloves of garlic. Don't mince it or it's gonna burn. Also, fresh rosemary is amazing. You could also use fresh thyme or fresh sage. Just make sure you take out these bits if they begin to burn, because then they're going to give the oil a bitter flavor. And I actually took these out, the garlic and the rosemary out, after the first batch. I left my lamb chops to cook on one side for about 4 minutes, and I didn't move it. Okay, some of y'all move y'all food too much, which is why you don't get the flavor and the crustification that you are looking for. You gotta let the food rest, chill, do its thing, kick back. Okay, then you flip it and you let it sit for about 3 more minutes. How long you let it go the second time depends on how well done you like your lamb chops. I really like my lamb chops kind of medium well, so there'll be a little bit of pink in the middle, but it's up to you, okay? If you don't want them medium well and you want them all the way done, just let them go for a little bit longer. Either way, there's so much fat in this pan. They're going to be juicy, okay? They're going to be juicy regardless. Baste your lamb chops with that flavor oil as they cook to make sure that they just keep that moisture and everything. And then you're going to be good, okay? Take them out. Take out your garlic and your rosemary when they burn. And look at this. Look at this delicious lamb chop. Do not cut it right away. Don't get that greedy spirit, okay? And just cut into your lamb chop right away. You got to let it rest. Okay, let it rest on the plate for about 10 minutes. Let the juices stay locked in, okay? While you work on your other batch. Don't get greedy and eat quick. Okay, now I went in with my second batch of lamb, and I'm going to cook them the same way. There is a lot of oil in the pan, and you could remove it, but I'm not going to. I'm going to just let it fry and do its thing, all right? Well, and let me know in the comments if you would like for me, what you would like to see me cook, what other recipes you'd like to see me make. I just love doing these things for you guys, and I really enjoy this. Now, after I take my second batch out, again, I'm going to allow them to rest and go let the greedy goblin get me, okay? And let all the juices run out my meat. We're not going to do that, okay? We're going to let it rest while we look at this delicious, beautiful lamb chop. Family, as you can see, these lamb chops come together so easily, and they are perfect for Easter, having that roasted lamb. Of course, we know that represents the sacrifice of my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. So I think this would be perfect for the Easter table. Next, we're going to make some delicious yeast rolls. It's better than your grandmama yeast rolls. And I got a good tip to help you rise this dough in half the time. Yep, you want this recipe, baby. First off, I have some buttermilk that I have been heating in the microwave in 30-second intervals until it was about the temperature of a baby bottle. Now, I know a lot of people will say you need to use a thermometer, but honestly, I use my clean pinky, and if I can stick my pinky in for 10 seconds very comfortably, then I know that it is good. Then I will go ahead and put in about a tablespoon of sugar because the yeast need to eat something, okay? And then I'm going to put in 2 packages of some active dry yeast. I'm going to mix this up, and then I'm going to allow this to sit for about 5 minutes. That way I'm going to know that my yeast is already active. Now I know some of y'all are afraid of cooking with yeast. Y'all afraid of making bread, but baby, don't be afraid, okay? If you follow this recipe and these instructions, it's going to come out right. Just trust me, okay? When you see it bubbly like this, you know your yeast is active. Okay, it's alive. Amen. And then we're going to go ahead and put in a half of a cup of honey. I'm just putting it in here so that the honey can go ahead and start to dissolve. And I'm going to mix this up really well. Now I'm going to show you guys how to correctly measure your flour, especially when you are baking. I know a lot of you guys get tough or doughy bread mixtures, and a lot of the reasons is because you incorrectly measure your flour. You should take your spoon into your flour bag and shake the flour and then spoon it into your measuring cup. Flour gets very compressed when it is in that bag, and if you just go in there and scoop directly, you're scooping way more flour than necessary. Once I have spooned it into my measuring cup, I am then going to take the back of a spatula and just scrape it off so that it becomes level. I'm going to continue to do this until I get 3 1/4 cups of flour. Now, of course, we will be using additional flour as we knead the bread, but this is how much I'm starting off with. Then I'm going to add a half a teaspoon of kosher salt, and I'm going to add the rest of the white sugar. I'm going to mix this well, and then I will create sort of a well in the middle of the flour mixture. I like to then add this is butter flavored shortening. I have melted a half a cup of this. Guys, it's going to make your rolls so tender and so buttery and delicious, but you can just use half a cup of butter instead. I'm going to crack in 1 egg, and then I'm going to put in my yeast, my milk, and my honey. As you can see, I am able to slowly incorporate the flour because I have made this well. I just gently knock more flour from the side whenever I am ready and I've incorporated what is already in the middle. I really like this technique because it makes it easier to blend everything together. When I'm ready, I go around the edges and I scrape all of the excess flour into the dough. Now the dough is going to initially be a little bit sticky. But as we knead the dough, you're going to see that it's going to become way less sticky, and it's almost going to take on an elastic sort of feeling, almost like Play-Doh. Now that my mixture has come together, I'm going to dust a little flour on my dough ball just to help it get out of the bowl smoothly. And I have already cleaned my counter well, honey. I have gone through, I've wiped it down, I've Lysoled it, I've done everything. So my counter is super clean, all right? Because you don't want no little crumbs and stuff in your rolls. People going to talk about you, honey. They're going to talk about you at the holiday table, and you ain't going to be invited to bring nothing else to the potluck. All right, so I have put down flour on my counter, and I am going to begin to knead some dough. Now I'm going to knead this continuously for about 4 to 5 minutes. I am going to use my palm to go back and forth in a rocking motion, okay, and I'm just going to massage the dough. As needed, I am going to add in additional flour. Now, that is why I don't start out with too much flour in the actual recipe, because in total, you end up adding about a half a cup to 3/4 of a cup of flour to the dough just during the kneading process. And you don't want the rolls to become too tough or heavy. Now, to me, yeast rolls are just one of those things, you just bust out when you want to show somebody what they're working with. You know what I'm saying? When you want to let the people know that you know how to cook, okay, that you know what you're doing in that kitchen, right? Amen. Let me know in the comments when you be making your yeast rolls, okay? Now, this is the tip to get your dough to rise faster. I take my Instant Pot, my Instant Pot, baby, and I put a little olive oil in there, and then I add my dough. Now, you have to have an Instant Pot that has a yogurt setting. Just like when you're making yogurt in the Instant Pot, it's the right temperature to ferment the yogurt. If you put your dough in the Instant Pot on the yogurt setting on less, it is the perfect temperature to rise the dough. Mine doubled in size in about 45 minutes, but if you don't have an Instant Pot, you can also just rise it in a warm location for about 1 hour to 2 hours. Now, once it is risen, I am going to punch it just to release the air, and then I'm going to collect it all together and just, put it all together into a ball. And then I'm going to prep my baking dish. I have a 9x13 baking dish that I'm going to brush with some butter very well. And then I am going to start pinching off dough pieces that are about 2 tablespoons of dough. Once I get that dough pinched off, I am then going to flatten the dough so that I can lace even more butter into these yeast rolls. And honey, this is just going to make the yeast rolls divine, right? So I'm going to brush this butter into the inside. And then I'm going to fold it over, and then I'm going to take it and pinch the back together and smooth it out into a little ball. I'm going to put 3 of them on every row close to each other, and I'm going to keep going until my pan is full. Now, with this recipe, I actually had 4 more that I could not fit into this pan, so I baked them in another dish. Once you have added your yeast rolls, you're then going to cover them with saran wrap, and I like to also cover them with a tea towel, and I place them in a warm location to rise again. I let mine sit for about another hour to do the second rise. Tell me in the comments who was responsible for bringing the yeast rolls to y'all family potlucks. Like, I feel like there's always some, church mama, grandmama who can make the best yeast rolls in the family, and like they're the only people that can make it. Y'all know what I'm talking about. I definitely had those people in my family, and they could throw down. Now, if you follow this recipe, you about to become it, but who is it right now? Now, once my dough has risen, I am going to go in and brush it with even more butter. Yep, honey. And I have had the oven preheating at 375 degrees. I am going to cook these rolls for anywhere from 20 to 23 minutes. I also like to finish them off with a little bit of honey butter, but this is optional. But I do like a little sweetness on my yeast rolls. I ain't even gonna lie. So I mix about a tablespoon of honey with some salted butter, and I just brushed it all over the top. I really enjoyed these yeast rolls with that ham recipe you saw me make in my last video. Oh my goodness. You just crack open a buttery yeast roll and you stick in some pineapple glazed ham. Oh my goodness. That is like perfection in my opinion. And there you have it, loves. You have a full Easter meal with your mains and your sides. You've got a pineapple glazed ham, some lamb chops, corn pudding, collard greens with the smoked turkey, potato salad, and some delicious yeast rolls. Remember, check the description box for links to some desserts that would go well with this. I have a banana pudding. I have in there a lemon pound cake and some other recipes. I hope you know that I love you and Jesus loves you. He's the savior of the world, and he's really the reason for Easter. I know I'll see you next time in Kamira's Kitchen. Goodbye, guys. God bless.